I am currently recording my podcast in my bathroom. There is a legitimate reason why, but instead of going in depth and explaining why I am here, I would just go ahead and take that as today's TMI that I will share with you and move on to what I actually want to talk about today. Last Friday, February 26th, was the last day of my first ever school term teaching here in South Korea. Now, I thought I was going to be super ecstatic about it being my last day of teaching something that I have never tried before. I was actually pretty sad when that day actually arrived. Now, one of the main reasons why was because that I have been, you can say promoted, but I've just been switched to teach another department, teach another level. So that meant that it was the last day I will ever see the kids that I have been teaching for 3 months. Now, 3 months went by super fast, especially because I think part of the reason why is that I have been teaching Zoom classes, so I didn't really see them face to face every day until maybe the last month or so when we finally brought the kids back in class. Now, I think in order for you to understand the rest of this podcast, it's crucial that I explain to you the structure at our academy. So at our academy, there are kind of like two different sections. One are the lower levels that had kids ranging from kindy all the way to third grade, and also the higher level, which is like your fourth, fifth, sixth, and sometimes seventh grader. So I am what you would call a combo teacher because I teach both almost every day. The lower levels focus on comprehension and production, and the higher levels focus on critical thinking and creative outputs, I think. So currently, well, I can't say currently anymore because my school term finished. So previously, I have been teaching like lower level, level 1, level 2, and pre-2. Pre-2 comes before the actual levels because they're younger kids and we're just trying to prep them in understanding English and trying to produce English on their own. So I had quite a few lower classes and only 3 upper classes. So it was hard for me to say goodbye to my lower level kids since next semester I will only be teaching higher level kids. So at first, I thought, you know what? I'm done dealing with kids. Like, I'll be all right. I think this is going to be great. But when the day actually came, I was quite sad. Actually, the week leading to it, I accidentally slipped up and told one of my level 2 class that next week was going to be our last week. And then they had asked me, oh, Julie teacher, are you going to be our new teacher next week? And I say, actually, I will not be teaching you for the new school term. And they were like, what? Why? And it was easier for me to explain to the higher level kids in lower levels since they understand, they comprehend better than the younger kids like the kindy and first, second, third grader. But I was telling them, well, it was because I did not get promoted. I did not level up. It's just that my schedule has been switched to teach only upper level class since we were getting new teachers. So the new teachers needed to have experience to teach both, to be a combo teacher. So instead of being a combo teacher next term, I'm only a upper level teacher next term. So they're like, what? That's one kid, her name was Amy. She was particularly upset upon hearing this news. That day we were learning to make constellations, and you had to pick a character you wanted to be and imagine and create a constellation for that character. And someone had picked police, so the constellation suggestion for that was handcuff. So right after learning this word, handcuff, she said, "Teacher, I am going to handcuff you and tie you to we had like a projector thing extending from the wall. And she's like, I'm going to tie you to that pole and you never ever leave this class." I was like, oh, that's sweet, but also at the same time, violent and scary. But that was when they first find out about that. And throughout the week, as we approach closer and closer to the last day, I think it's finally settling in their head that this is real, that next week when I come to class, it's not going to be Julie teacher. So the class was kind of sad about it. And I decided for my last day, I was going to write my favorite class's letters. So at the Art Box is kind of like a stationery store here in South Korea. I found these tiny envelopes that are really cute that comes with letters. So I wrote I think about 12 letters. And I don't understand why, but each package contains 3 envelopes and 6 letter paper. So I needed 12 envelopes. I had to buy so many packages and I ended up with extra just letter paper that I have no use for because when am I ever going to write them again? So basically, I got my letters and the day of, on Friday morning, my hand was just like cranking out letters like I'm some sort of a machine, a typewriter or whatever. So I'm like writing my letters, I'm getting late for work, and the letters, the envelopes, they're yellow, and it looks like a little chick's face, like a little chicken. Little chick. No, not chicken. Yeah, little chick. Anyways, and when I left in a hurry, because I was late, since I didn't expect writing letters to them would take so long, since each letter is different, I'm not writing the same letter for every kid. So I just left them a message, a standard message that, I had fun teaching you. I hope you had fun in my class. And then a personal message for them, encourage them to continue learning English, encourage them to be more confident in their skills, to share their ideas in class, things like that. So that took way longer than I thought. So when I left, I was already running a little late, but I somehow miraculously got to work on time. And when I arrived at my work desk, I'm like taking everything out, right? Because I haven't assembled them yet. So I take out all the envelopes, I take out all the letter letter papers, and I'm putting them in envelopes. And then I'm left with 2 letters that had no envelopes because I realized I only bought 3 packs of those envelope and letter, and 3 times 3 equals 9 instead of 12. So I had 2 kids. So I guess I had 11 kids instead of 12. I had 2 kids who did not have envelope. Now, in one of my classes, there are 2 boys in that class. So I single-handedly decided, you know what? I think the boys would not mind as much if they did not have a cute chick-looking envelope. So instead, I drew their faces, like a cute version of it, matching with their hairstyle, since I can't see what their face looks like. And I decided to, first, profusely apologize to them about my mistake, and second, ask if it's okay, and I'll just give them extra candies instead. Oh yeah, I also went to E-Mart Traders, which is like think about your typical H-E-B if you're from Texas. If not, just think about your typical grocery store. I went there, bought those big party packs of M&Ms that comes in like individually triangular package. So I gave all my classes chocolates, and also for my favorite class that would comprehend my letter, a letter for each student. So I told them I would give them 2 packages of M&Ms to make up for my mistake. So I get to class, right? I get to class, my level 2 class, or the first class of the day. So I walk in and I'm like, hey everyone, guess what? Today's our last day. And usually, every day, I have this kid in my class, his name is Jacking, and he sits right in front of me. in front of the class. And he's always like, he's like the class, what do they call them? Class jocks? I don't think that's the right term, but he's not necessarily a troublemaker, but he is a handful. He's very active. He talks a lot. And whenever we're doing tests, he likes to say out, just blur out answers. But today, he sat all the way in the back, and he was very oddly well behaved. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Maybe they understand that it was the last day of class. Okay, so we changed location because someone needed to use the bathroom. So I was just kind of, taken aback by how my class is behaving today. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's finally settling in that today is the last day of class. And maybe the boys decided to behave themselves to leave good impressions on our very last day. So I'm about to hand out these letters. And I noticed, geez, my hands were shaking. My hands were shaking when I gave all the letters to them. I told them, so as you know, today's our last day of class, and I prepared a little something for you. And all the students were like, oh, what? Really? Okay, so I pass out all the letters, I call out their names, and then I have the boys left, right? So I say, well, Jackie and Tom, first of all, I'm so sorry. I didn't have enough envelopes, and so instead, I drew your faces on not necessarily the cover, but on top of the letters. And I folded them nicely, and I'm like, is that okay? And the boys are like, yeah, that's fine. So I gave it to them, and then some people started reading it right away. Some people put it in their little pencil pouches. And as always, I started a 5-minute timer for them to study for their quiz in the beginning of class. And there's this one kid I mentioned before, Amy. She's the smartest in the class. She talks very well. Her vocabulary is quite large compared to other kids in her class and also the other kids in this level as well. So instead of studying for a quiz, she actually tore out 2 pieces of paper from her diary, and she was like doing something. The bathroom break is done. And I was wondering, like, oh, what is she doing instead of, studying for your very last chunk test? And when the time is up, she gave me this piece of paper that she folded. Well, actually, she gave it to me at the end of class when we were all done. But she wrote me a little letter. And she also drew a picture of me without my glasses. So she wrote, to Julie teacher, thanks for teaching us for 3 months. You were a great teacher for us. I'm surprised that it is already the last day of Sprout 2. I just exposed my level names. Thank you again for teaching us, from Amy. So I was like, this smartest kid in the class sacrificed her time to study for her last quiz to write a letter for me back because, it's the last day, so she wouldn't be able to see me after that. And I was quite touched when I got this cute letter. So now that I'm finished with my first class, I head into my second. Now my second, the level is way below this level that I just came out of. So I'm going into pre-2, pre-second level. And these kids are like a lot younger than the level 2 kids that I just taught. So it's a little bit noisier. It's kind of unruly. Most of the days, my voice just kind of diminishes at the end of class because I will have to be yelling a lot to keep them in order, keep them focused because they're like kids. They're younger kids. So in this class, I told them also, this is our last class together. And most of them were just really motivated and mesmerized by my M&Ms instead of focusing on what I really was saying. I think some of them might not even comprehend what I was saying. So I kept them focused. I did it to the best of my ability. And then I gave them candy. And when I gave each of them candy, first of all, I checked their book to make sure they completed all the pages. And then I gave them this candy. And then you can just tell that their eyeballs are looking at the candy. But I was like, hey, look at me. Next week, Julie teacher, no more. No more Julie teacher, okay? And then they're like nodding. Just give me the freaking M&Ms. And then I told them, I would call them by their name and I say, let's say, for example, let's use Amy again. No, let's use Julia. So I would say, Julia, next week, no more Julie teacher, okay? So you will have new teacher, okay? They're like, oh, why? Okay. And I told them, please be nice and listen to the new teachers, okay? And they're like, nod, take their M&Ms, go back to their seat. And there's this one kid that, to be honest, I had the most headaches with. She was new. She transferred here not too long ago. And she just does not listen. She just refused to listen in class. And whenever it's her turn to answer questions, she'll just pretend that she does not understand. She'll be like, what? I don't know. Like she does not even try, no matter how I motivate her. And today, same thing, I told her. I was like, hey, Justina, next week, not Julie teacher anymore, okay? New teacher. And she was so shocked. She was like, what? Why? No. And she just clinged on to me and would not let go. And she was just hugging me. She's like, dude, no, why? Teacher, why? I'm like, wait a minute. I thought this kid does not like me. You never listen to me. Why are you suddenly showing affection? And she likes to call me Pepero teacher. So they have nicknames for all the teachers around the academy. For one teacher in particular, he drinks coffee from this coffee shop we have downstairs every single day, to a point where the kids call him coffee teacher. So there's coffee teacher, there's also a latte teacher, and apparently I am Pepero teacher. And I'm like, why am I Pepero? And then they say, because teacher, you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're drawing blocks. So I guess apparently because I am long, I am Pepero teacher by the younger kids. So she's clinging on to me. She's not really letting go. And when class time comes, she's dancing with me. I don't know how to describe it, but eventually all the kids left. And before they left, I stopped them at the door. And I was like, hey, everyone. I just wanted to say goodbye to them for the very last time. So okay, everyone, quiet please. It was time to go, right? It was 55. And I was like, okay, everyone, bye-bye. And then they're like, bye-bye, Julie teacher. And then they all left. And I was like, oh, okay, 2 classes done. 1, 2, 3. 3 more to go for today. And then I went back to another level 2 class. And this class, the students are a little bit older. So they're 3rd, 4th, and 6th grade. I only had 4 kids in that class. And on Friday, my only boy in the class was not there. So I couldn't give the letter out to him. So it was all girl class and it was project day. So I was like, you know what? It's last day. It's last project. Let's just have some fun. Let's just do it as a class instead of individually. So the girls, obviously, they had a lot of fun creating a project amongst themselves, since I guess it's still kind of awkward in that age for them to be communicating and trying to cooperate with a boys student. So the girls enjoy the time for themselves. And when I gave them the letter, I'm still a little bit nervous at this point. They're like, oh, you prepare something for it. So I gave them the letter. And one kid, she actually took out another candy from her backpack and just kind of, traded with me. So I got one candy from her as well. And as soon as they got the letter, they asked me, teacher, can we read it? I was like, yeah, you can. I was still a little bit shy for them to read it in front of me because I felt a little embarrassed. But, I started the timer as well. We did the quiz. No, before we did the quiz, I realized that I forgot to bring the camera because it's project day, we have to film. So I told them, okay, I'll be right back. So I ran back to my office, grabbed the camera, and then when I came back to class, they just finished reading it. And they're like, teacher, thank you so much for the letter, blah, blah, blah. It was very cute. And then we started the quiz, we did the project, and I left. And I went back to my office to prepare for my last lower level class. And this class has my favorite student in it. And once again, is a pre-second level class. So these kids are young. They were like second grade, first grade. Kindy? Is there anyone in Kindy in there? I don't remember, but they're very young. They're very cute, and they're also very unruly. But compared to the class, the pre-second level class I had before, this class was a lot more manageable, and they were a little bit more obedient. Once again, because my favorite kid is in that class. So I go in, and I didn't write letter for this class because they're so young, they wouldn't understand. So I walk in there, I told them, today's our last class together. And they're like, no, teacher, why? And I completed the lesson with them. And at the end, I did the same thing. I checked their books, and then I gave them candy. And I look at them in the eye and I say, next week, I'm not going to be here anymore. Please be nice to the new teacher, okay? And they're like, okay. And then their eyes are like looking at the M&Ms, right? And then there are a few kids in this class that are really cute. And one girl, she likes to draw a lot. And she used some paper that we got for the activities in class. And she drew Julie teacher on it. She wrote, bye-bye, level 2, pre-level 2. And then on the other side, she made me one of those, what are they called? In the office, they have those like nameplates. Are they called nameplates? Of just character's name, and it's like a triangle, and you put it in front of your desk so people know what's your name. And she folded her paper kind of like a triangle, but in a way that it stands up, and it has my name on it. It says Julie teacher, and then her portrait of me, which is very cute, and also her name. She wrote from Jiu. And then her best friend in the class, who I think they've been going to the same academy for 2 years, so they're like buddies. Legit, copy whatever she did and wrote the same thing. He wrote, "Tis is," not this, "Tis is teacher Julie." And he did not remember how to spell my name, so he walked up to me and was like, teacher name. And then I showed him my ID card. So he's like staring at my ID card and then writing the name down. And then he wrote, bye-bye, Julie teacher, a heart and a smiley face. And that was from James, Jiu's best friend. And then in the end, my absolute favorite kid is in this class. His name is Daniel. Oh my God, my golden child, Daniel. This kid is a saint. He is the rarest, well-behaved kid I have ever met. He is very patient, always respectful, even though, online classes are boring, especially for kids who are that young. He never ever leaves the computer. He's always sitting there. He's always willing to participate. He's just so sweet. He's my absolute favorite. And sometimes when classes gets frustrated, I'm just like, just look at Daniel, breathe in, breathe out. At least we have one good kid here. So he is my absolute favorite. And before this week, a few weeks ago, he likes to do these, he calls like the psychology test, where he would just draw shapes like circle, triangle, and then like zigzag and a cross, and what else? Zigzag, cross, and then the M shape. And I think there's one more shape. I just can't remember what it is. And he would draw these psychology tests, and he would give it to his friends to do. And one day I got curious. I was like, oh, Daniel, me too. So he was like, oh, okay. So he draws it. He finds a piece of paper, draws it for me, and then I drew it, and I gave it back to him. He's like, oh, thank you, so nice. Because like the picture I drew looked nice. He's like, oh, so nice, thank you. So I gave it to him and I forgot about it. And then next day, he came back, and well, actually not next day, because I see them every other day. So 2 days later, he comes back, and I see that he put my drawing in like a clear folder. So he's like, oh, teacher, your test. So I see that he put my drawing in the folder, and next to my pictures, he wrote down in English what they meant. And I don't have it with me because I have it in my office so that I can look at it every single day and be reminded that such a sweet kid exists. But he would write, thinking, I, exciting, thinking, love, sweet, thinking, life, free. Like thinking, I guess, is like what it says about my thoughts, how I think. And he like wrote these analysis to the best of his ability on that paper for me. And I was like, this kid is so sweet. I don't deserve him. So I was like, I was gonna shake his hand. He's like, oh teacher, no COVID. So he like elbowed me. It's just, oh my god, so sweet. So last day, Daniel too decided to draw me a picture. And this kid is so smart. He understands the concept of banking in like Bitcoin. He told me his favorite place to be was the bank. And I was like, how would such a young kid understand? Like, why would that be his favorite place? Usually kids would say, oh, at Everland, like at theme parks or like toy shops. And this kid is like, I like bank. And I'm like, why? And he tries to explain the concept of banking to me on a piece of paper. So he would draw this circular coin and he wrote one in it. He's like, okay, teacher, money. And then he drew an arrow to the bank. Money, bank. And then instead of drawing one coin, he drew 2 coins. So it's like the first coin that we put in the bank plus like a little bit of interest or whatever that you get when you deposit money at the bank. I was like, Jesus, this kid is smart. And the other day he was talking about Bitcoin that I already forgot, but he's super bright. And I feel like he's very old-fashioned. So whatever his parents are doing, they're doing an exceptional job because this kid is like a golden child. So last day, he also drew a picture and he folded it. And like for the manila folders that we have in the old days, they have those like strings that you wrap around to tie the envelope. So he drew his pictures, he drew it on his paper to look like those folders with the strings attached to it. So I was like, oh, is this where you like untie and unwrap and open? He's like, yes. And I opened it and it's just like different hearts. And then in the middle, he wrote love. And I was like, oh my God, my favorite kid also likes me too. It was such a sweet moment. I had to show my colleagues. I was like, do you remember my favorite kid? And she was like, yeah. I was like, he drew me a picture. And then she's like, oh, what is it? I was like, open it. And then she opened it and then it's like love. And she's like, oh, that's sweet. Your favorite kid also likes you too. And I was like, yeah, I was so happy. So I was really, really sad about saying goodbye to all my kids. I guess partly because I knew that I wasn't going to teach them next term. And kids forget fast, but I'm not a kid, so I won't forget about them since they're my very first classes of students. They are very special to me, even though sometimes they may be, a pain in the butt. And especially in this one other class. Okay, not every single class is a good class. There are some classes that I just could not wait to end my school term with them. There's this level 1 class that there's this kid in there who's also a transfer from another class. So he has been in this academy for quite a while. Before he joined my class, our class was kind of like very quiet. And now, since he joins, he likes to, he's very active in class. Even though his English might not be that good, he's very eager to learn. He's eager to try. He's not scared to make mistakes. And his name was Justin. And recently we figured out that he likes to, since we have a lot of dialogues in our lesson books, he likes to, whenever he is chosen and the character is a female, he likes to use his higher voice like this. And I was like, oh, you want to be a female character? He's like, yeah. He likes to act, he's a people pleaser. And I was like, okay, then I'll change your name to Justina. So from that day on, he would be like, teacher, Justina. I was like, okay, fine, Justin, you go. And he'd be like, today we're going to look at the constellation. And like all the girls in the class are like laughing, and the boys are like, oh, stop it. Like, that's so embarrassing. Come on. But it's nice to have him in the class. And on the last day with them, I teach him on a separate day. So the last day with them was actually Thursday. He was like, I was about to leave the class, right? And he's like, oh, teacher. Like, he took out something from his backpack, and it was like a Ferrero Rocher. He was like, oh, teacher, thank you for teaching me. I was like, oh, I didn't expect it from this guy. So I was like, thank you. So that was a very nice surprise. I hope that he will continue to, be eager to learn about English the way he has been right now. Because his friend, I also teach his friend in another class, and oh God, that class is a mess. All the boys just cause chaos, not listening, and then the girls genuinely want to learn, but it's just so much noise, and usually the boys get sent out of the classroom. They just like stand in the hallway in shame while the class is finally operating as it should be. But I was glad to say goodbye to the other class, and I hope Justin doesn't get influenced too much from his other friend and continue to enjoy English the way he has been right now. Oh my God, I totally forgot what else. Sweet Daniel, my favorite kid, done for me? Done for me? Or what I did for him right before he left, like officially left the classroom. So I'm saying goodbye to my kids, and I'm like, hey, bye, kids. And then they're like, okay, bye, Julie, teacher. And I told them, please come say hi to me if you see me in the hallway. And Daniel, he's like waiting for everyone to leave. And then Daniel's like, oh, teacher, Vina. And like, he's calling the mascot, the academy mascot. And he's like pointing to himself. So I was like, oh, does he want me to draw him like the school mascot for him? So I took out a piece of paper and I just like quickly drew the mascot to look like him. So I have like a little turtleneck and then his backpack, and then on the backpack has his name, Daniel, and I gave it to him. He was like, oh, thank you, teacher. Thank you. And he's like looking at me and like slowly like just like waving by, and then finally leaving because another kid was approaching me. And then the other kid saw what I drew for Daniel. She was like, oh my God, teacher, me too. That was Jiu. So I had to draw Jiu another picture too. So I drew Jiu the way that she looked like, short hair and then hairband, and then, but change it to look like our school mascot. And then she's like, I'm like, is this okay too? And she's like, yes, teacher, bye-bye. So that was when I officially said goodbye to all of my kids. And then I just felt like, oh my God, I'm never ever going to see them again, and maybe they'll forget me by next week. But I am thankful for my times with them. It's not always sunshine and rainbow, especially because you're teaching kids. And I've only taught them for 3 months. And sadly, most of the weeks were done online. So we've only been offline for a little over a month. And look how quickly we rebonded, if that's even a word. It just felt so intimate and special. I guess it's true that people say, your first it will always be special. And these are my first classes of kid. Oh yeah, when I went back to my office, the Korean co-teacher of my second level class that I had, that was like all girls, she came up to me and she's like, oh, Julie. I was like, yes. She said, the kids wanted me to tell you that, oh my gosh, what did they say? The kids wanted me to tell you that they appreciated me teaching them, and then they really liked me teaching them. Something along those lines. So I was like, oh, they reached out to the Korean teacher to relate that message to me. So that was also very sweet. So that was my Friday. And that Friday, we were also losing 3 teachers because their contract has ended or they're transferring. So it was just like a lot of goodbyes we had to say around the office. And as the newbie of the foreign teacher team, everyone were so special to me because they all together have made my experience teaching in Korea so wonderful. And we had lots of ups and downs, and we experienced it as a group, so we all bonded in one way or another. And I'm just so grateful for everyone that I've met here that had helped me or lend me a helpful hand. And I'm not perfect. I made so many mistakes, and I also learned from them. But I also understand that every journey has an end, just like Iron Man has said. But an ending will only lead to the beginning of another odyssey. Even though we shed some tears, every goodbye has a good intention behind it. And one perspective or another, it's a new beginning for my kids. They will get to meet the new teachers next week. And by next week, I mean tomorrow. By tomorrow, I mean today, because it's already past 12. And also for the foreign teachers as well, they will be starting on a new branch or starting a new chapter of their life. So I'm happy that I get to share part of their life with them. No. I am happy that I was included in the chapter of their life, and I'm grateful to have met them. But I also wish them the best. I wish them the best in whatever is waiting for them in the future as well. And I'm excited about mine too, even though I'm a little bit nervous since I haven't taught just full high-level schedule. So I will try to prepare myself to the best of my ability and understand that I will make mistake, and at the heat of the moment it's probably embarrassing or frustrating, but I will move from it and grow and become a better teacher like I have, I hope, as I did with my lower level kids. And I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. Today, maybe I will crash and burn like my first day when I started the last school term. But all I can do is keep a positive outlook and hope that by the end of this term, I will also, make unforgettable memories as I did this time around. Thank you to those who have stuck around with me throughout this journey. And I wanted to record this podcast, this episode, because I don't want to forget about it. Because I know if I don't record it down somehow, it will, eventually get washed away to the back of my head and I forget. But it's a special memory, and I think it deserves to stay somewhere. So here we are. And thank you again for tuning in to today's podcast, the 25th episode of Lactose Intolerant. It is always a pleasure to share part of my life, part of my opinion on the internet. And I hope you also had fun listening to them. Stay safe as always. And I will see you next week, hopefully, with more thoughts to share.